Hey everyone. Don't forget to subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to know what you think about the characters and their choices. Enjoy the story. I never thought that my birthday would turn into something so complicated. The plan was simple enough: a fun, relaxing night with my closest friends. My husband, James, had been so sweet about it all. He really wanted to make it special. He booked a big, fluffy bear costume for an entertainer. He thought it would be cute, and it honestly seemed like a fun idea. He also gave me a beautiful piece of jewelry, something sparkly and elegant, just like he always does for special occasions. But something was off that night. I love James, don't get me wrong. We've been married for 5 years, and I truly appreciate everything he does. But lately, I'd felt disconnected. He's been so wrapped up in his work, his commitments, and his duties as a husband that we barely had time for anything spontaneous. It was always about the routine: dinner, work, bed, repeat. I didn't want to complain. I understood he was under pressure. But I had started to feel like I was fading into the background of our life together. So when my best friend, Emily, suggested bringing a couple of guys to the party to mix things up, I didn't really hesitate. I figured it would be harmless. Just a little bit of fun. I didn't tell James though. I didn't want him to worry. He had already put so much effort into the evening, and I didn't want to take away from that. I just thought a little change in the atmosphere wouldn't hurt. When the party started, everything seemed great. The drinks were flowing, everyone was laughing, and the bear mascot was a hit. James was clearly happy to see me enjoying myself, and I was genuinely grateful. But as the night wore on, I began to notice one guy in particular. Tom. One of Emily's friends. He was tall, with dark hair and these intense eyes that somehow felt like they were always looking straight at me. We exchanged some playful glances, nothing too serious, just lighthearted teasing. But it was enough to get my heart racing a little faster. It wasn't that I wanted anything to happen, it was just that I hadn't felt that kind of spark in a while. The attention felt good. Tom was easy to talk to, and he made me feel noticed. It wasn't even about physical attraction, it was more about the way he made me feel seen. James had always made me feel loved, but somewhere along the way, the excitement faded, and I didn't even know how to talk to him about it. I tried to push those thoughts away as we continued with the night. But every time I caught Tom's eye, I felt something shift inside me. When the music started playing and everyone got up to dance, I found myself gravitating toward him. We ended up alone in the corner of the room, laughing about something, when he leaned in a little closer. "Your husband seems like a great guy," he said with a smirk. "But you're different. You've got this energy, you know." I laughed nervously, not knowing how to respond. But his words lingered in my mind. "I'm just a little tired of the same old thing," I blurted out more than I meant to. "You know? It's like everything's the same every day." Tom nodded slowly, his eyes never leaving mine. "I get it. Sometimes you just need a little something different, a little excitement." I wasn't sure what I was doing. In that moment, I wasn't thinking clearly. Maybe I just wanted to feel something different, something new, after months of feeling like I was stuck in a routine. Before I knew it, we found ourselves moving upstairs to a quieter part of the house, away from the party. It was as though everything faded away. The noise, the laughter, the expectations. It was just the two of us. I don't even remember how it happened exactly, but we ended up sitting on the bed, talking about life, about everything and nothing. It felt like we were connecting on a deeper level than I had in a long time. I wasn't thinking about James. I wasn't thinking about what I was doing. I just felt alive again. The way Tom looked at me made me feel special, made me feel wanted in a way I hadn't in months. I know it was wrong, but for some reason, it didn't seem like a big deal at the time. It wasn't a decision. It was more like something that just happened. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest as we kissed, my mind swirling with confusion. Was this a mistake? Of course it was. But in that moment, it didn't feel like one. I told myself that it was just a brief escape, something that would stay between us, something that didn't have to affect my marriage. I had convinced myself that I could keep things separate. Afterwards, when we both realized what had happened, the weight of it all started to settle in. My heart was pounding, and there was this lump in my throat. What now? What had I done? But before I could even process it, I heard the sound of people coming up the stairs. Panicking, I quickly stood up, fixing my dress and trying to pull myself together. We couldn't stay upstairs any longer. As I walked back downstairs, I felt a wave of guilt and excitement, both in equal measure. I didn't know what to feel, but the last thing on my mind was James. Not yet, anyway. I still had to face him, and I wasn't sure how I was going to explain this. But I didn't think it would matter much. It was just a small slip-up, right? I would forget about it. The night would go on. It was supposed to be fun. That's when I saw him. James was standing by the entrance with the giant bear costume. His smile was wide, and he was holding a big bouquet of flowers in one hand, the jewelry box in the other. But when he saw me, something in his expression changed. His eyes flickered, almost as if he was waiting for me. Something about the way he looked at me told me everything I needed to know. I rushed over to him, trying to mask the nervousness I was feeling. I was smiling, too, eager to embrace him, to forget what had just happened. But he didn't smile back. "Where were you?" His voice was calm but piercing. It was the tone he used when something didn't sit right with him. "With Tom." The room went silent. It felt like time stopped for a moment. I froze. I didn't know what to say. Everything inside me screamed to apologize, to tell him the truth. But I wasn't ready to face the consequences of what I had done. We went upstairs for a minute," I said, trying to sound casual, hoping he would buy it. James didn't say anything at first. His eyes flickered between me and Tom, who was now standing awkwardly by the door. There was a long, uncomfortable pause. Then, he spoke again, his voice sharp and cold. "Is that what it was?" A minute. I didn't know how to answer him. I didn't know what to do. The air in the room felt thicker as James stood there, holding the bear costume like it was the only thing keeping him from walking away. His face was unreadable, but there was something in his eyes, something that made my stomach drop. The happy birthday atmosphere, the fun and laughter from before, all seemed to vanish. It was just him and me now, and in that moment, the reality of what I'd done hit me harder than any of the champagne I'd drunk earlier. "Is that what it was?" James repeated, his voice lower this time, with a hint of disbelief. "A minute. I'm supposed to believe that?" I stood there frozen. I opened my mouth to speak, but the words didn't come out. It felt like my heart had been ripped out of my chest. For a moment, I wanted to scream, to tell him everything, to explain why it happened. But I knew I couldn't. I didn't even know how to begin. James, it wasn't like that." I stammered, but even I didn't believe my own words. "We just talked. It was nothing." But I could see it in his eyes. He wasn't buying it. I could tell by the way he was looking at me, his expression colder than I'd ever seen before. The bear costume, which was meant to be this funny, light-hearted addition to my night, now felt like a cruel joke. "Nothing," he said, his voice tight, a bitter laugh escaping his lips. "Really? So, what? You just casually went upstairs with him to talk? You don't think I can see through that? You don't think I can tell when something's off?" I felt my throat tighten, my breath becoming shallow. I knew there was no easy way out of this. The guilt was eating me alive. This wasn't just a harmless flirtation. It was a betrayal, and I couldn't undo it. The room felt suffocating. I wanted to tell him everything, the reasons, my feelings of loneliness, how I hadn't felt desired in so long, how Tom had made me feel seen. But I knew that wasn't what James needed to hear. He needed honesty, and I wasn't sure I was ready to give him that. "James, please?" I started, my voice cracking. I didn't mean for it to happen. It was stupid. I was just trying to, I don't know, have fun. I wasn't thinking. His eyes softened just a fraction, but his posture remained tense. "You weren't thinking? That's what you're going with. You think that's enough of an explanation?" I nodded, feeling like a fool. "I never wanted to hurt you," I whispered. I don't know. I didn't know what else to do." James shook his head, his disappointment palpable. "That's what you've been feeling? That's what you thought would fix things? Betraying me? Do you know how much trust I've put in you, how much I've tried to make you happy?" The words hit me harder than I expected. I had no answer. How could I possibly defend myself? How could I explain the emptiness I had been carrying inside? It wasn't about Tom. It wasn't even about the night. It was about the loneliness that had slowly crept into our relationship over the past months, and how I had let it dictate my actions without thinking of the consequences. "I'm sorry," I whispered, my voice barely audible. "I'm so sorry. I never meant for this to happen." But I knew it was too late. I could see the walls going up in James's eyes. The warmth and affection that had once been there were now replaced with something cold and guarded. He was pulling away, and there was nothing I could do to stop it. James let out a sigh, running a hand through his hair in frustration. You don't even get it, do you? Do you understand what you've just done? Do you realize how much this hurts? His voice shook slightly, but there was no anger, just pain. You've shattered everything, and now I don't even know who you are anymore. His words stung more than I ever imagined they would. I had thought we were strong enough to withstand anything, that we could work through problems like we always had. But this was different. I had crossed a line that I didn't think I would ever cross. I never meant to hurt you, I said again, the tears finally spilling down my cheeks. I love you, James. I just wanted to feel something again. I didn't think this would happen. I didn't think I could lose you. James didn't say anything for a moment. His face was a mixture of confusion, betrayal, and hurt. I could see the pain in his eyes, and I hated myself for causing it. He glanced at Tom, who was still standing awkwardly by the door, clearly unsure of what to do or say. It felt like he was an intruder in a moment that should have been between me and James, between a husband and a wife. I could feel James's anger rising again, but this time it wasn't directed at Tom. It was all aimed at me. You think you can just do this and make it go away? James's voice was sharp now, his words cutting through the tension. You think I'm just gonna forgive you because you say sorry? Do you even know what this does to me? I felt like I couldn't breathe. This wasn't just about the night anymore. It was about the trust we had built and now destroyed. It was about everything I had done wrong, everything I had overlooked. James turned to me, his face a mixture of resignation and disappointment. I can't do this, he said quietly, his voice trembling. I can't. Before I could say another word, he grabbed his jacket from the chair and walked out of the room, leaving me standing there, completely lost. I heard the door slam behind him, and it felt like the final nail in the coffin of our relationship. The rest of the party went by in a blur. I don't remember much of it. Just flashes of people asking if I was okay, people who didn't know what had just happened. I could feel their eyes on me, but all I wanted was to be alone. I left soon after, stepping into a cab that would take me home. But I wasn't really going home, was I? The person I was before, the one who had felt secure in her relationship, was gone. I was just a person now, unsure of who I was or where I was going. When I got to the apartment, everything felt wrong. The silence was deafening. James wasn't there. He wasn't coming back. And I knew, deep down, that everything I had hoped for that night, everything I had taken for granted, was now lost. I walked through the apartment, my eyes scanning every corner. The photos of us on the walls, the little notes we had exchanged over the years, all of it felt like a distant memory. A part of me wanted to believe that this was just a bump in the road, that James would come back and everything would be fine again. But I knew deep down that I had crossed a line, one that I couldn't undo. I went into the bedroom, my steps heavy. It was the room where so many good memories had been made, and now it felt cold. Empty. I collapsed onto the bed, burying my face in the pillow as the tears began to fall. I couldn't stop them. I didn't even try. What had I done? What had I thought I could gain from all of this? My phone buzzed on the nightstand. I wiped my tears away and picked it up, hoping it was James, maybe a message saying he was coming home. But when I saw the screen, my heart sank. It was a text from Emily. Hey, everything okay? You seemed a little off when you left. I hope you're not letting that guy get to you. Let's talk soon. That text felt like a slap in the face. How could I explain this to her? How could I explain to anyone that I had crossed a line, and now I didn't know how to fix it? I knew that Emily didn't mean anything by it. She was just being a friend. But at that moment, it felt like everyone was on the outside looking in, judging me without understanding what was really going on. I put the phone down and buried my face in my hands. The silence around me was suffocating. I tried to imagine what James was doing right now. Was he with friends, trying to distract himself from the reality of what had happened? Was he crying? Was he angry? I couldn't even begin to guess. Hours passed, and still he didn't return. The apartment felt like a ghost town, and I couldn't escape the nagging thought that things would never be the same again. I was waiting for a text, a phone call, anything that would tell me that we could work this out. But nothing came. The next morning, I woke up to the harsh light of day, but nothing felt right. I had hoped that when I opened my eyes, everything would be back to normal. But it wasn't. The weight of what had happened hung over me like a cloud, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I had lost everything. I grabbed my phone, hoping to see a message from James, But there was still nothing. Just a few notifications from friends, and a couple of missed calls from Emily. I couldn't bring myself to listen to them yet. I needed to focus on James. He was all that mattered now. I decided to call him. I took a deep breath and dialed his number, praying that he would answer. But after a few rings, it went to voicemail. I didn't leave a message. I didn't know what to say. What could I say? I put the phone down, feeling a sense of hopelessness wash over me. Maybe he just needed time. Maybe I could fix this. But deep inside, I knew it wasn't that simple. I had done something unforgivable. I had broken his trust, and trust is everything in a marriage. The phone buzzed again, and this time it was a message from my lawyer. The text read, "James has filed for divorce. We need to discuss next steps." I stared at the message, unable to process it at first. Divorce. Already. We hadn't even talked about it yet. The sting of reality hit me harder than any other moment in the past 24 hours. My heart sank into my stomach. I hadn't expected this. Not so quickly. Not so decisively. I didn't know what to do. My thoughts raced, but nothing seemed to make sense. How could James do this without even giving me a chance to explain? Was he really done with me? Just like that? I couldn't wait any longer. I needed to talk to him. I grabbed my coat and rushed out of the apartment, hoping he'd be somewhere. Maybe at a friend's house, maybe at the office. I needed to find him, to make things right. But the reality was sinking in quickly. I didn't know if I could fix this. I tried his phone again, but once more, it went straight to voicemail. I sent him a message, my hands trembling as I typed, "Please, James. We need to talk. I'm sorry. I don't want to lose you." But even as I pressed send, I couldn't shake the feeling that it was too late, that this was the end. I spent the rest of the day trying to piece together what had happened, replaying every moment of the night in my head. What could I have done differently? Could I have stopped myself before it went too far? Why didn't I just talk to James about what I needed? Why did I let it get to this point? I had crossed a line that I couldn't uncross. And as the hours passed, the reality of it all sank in. No matter how much I wished I could go back, no matter how many times I begged myself to fix it, I knew that I had lost something precious. James wasn't coming back. He had already made up his mind. I had hoped that maybe he just needed space, that maybe after a few days, he would come around, that he would be able to forgive me. But every moment of silence from him made that hope fade a little more. The truth was, I didn't think he could forgive me. I had betrayed his trust in a way that was unforgivable. No matter how much I regretted it, no matter how much I wished I could take it back, I couldn't. I spent hours in front of the mirror, wondering what had gone wrong. How had we gotten to this point? I tried to justify my actions. I told myself it was because I was lonely, that I hadn't felt seen in so long, that I needed to feel desired again. But those were just excuses. The truth was that I had acted impulsively, without thinking about the consequences, and now I was paying the price. I had crossed a line, and no amount of regret or tears was going to change that. The day I received the divorce papers was the day it all truly sank in. I was sitting on the couch, my eyes red from crying, when the letter arrived. The envelope was simple, unassuming. I opened it with shaky hands, my heart racing, and when I saw what it was, I could barely breathe. "James has filed for divorce. Please contact your lawyer to arrange a meeting." The words blurred as I read them over and over again. Divorce. It was happening. There was no turning back. I had thought that maybe, just maybe, we could work through this. But seeing those words on paper felt like a knife twisting in my gut. It was over. James had made his decision, and there was nothing I could do to change it. I sat there, in shock, staring at the papers for what felt like hours. I had lost everything. The life I had with James, the love we had built, it was all slipping away from me. And there was no one to blame but myself. I called my lawyer and set up a meeting. There was no point in putting it off any longer. The reality of the situation had finally hit me. I was losing him. I was losing everything I had taken for granted. The divorce process was, to say the least, painful. It wasn't just the legalities or the paperwork. It was the emotional toll that it took on both of us. Every phone call with my lawyer, every meeting, felt like a reminder of how far we had fallen. I hated myself for what I had done, but there was no escaping it. James was firm in his decision. He couldn't trust me anymore, and I couldn't blame him. I never heard from him again, not after the papers were signed. He packed up his things and moved out of our apartment. The house that we had once shared, full of memories and laughter, was now empty. There was no trace of him left. except for the small pieces of him scattered in the corners of my heart. I spent the next few months in a fog. I tried to keep busy, to distract myself from the crushing loneliness that weighed me down. But no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had lost something that I could never get back. There were days when I couldn't leave the house. I would sit on the couch, staring at the walls, thinking about James, about everything we had been. The memories of our good times together haunted me. I remembered the way he would smile at me, the way he would make me laugh even on my worst days. I remembered the quiet nights we spent together, just the two of us, watching movies or talking about our future. And now, all of it was gone. I kept asking myself why I had let this happen. Why hadn't I just talked to him? Why hadn't I expressed how I felt, instead of making a terrible decision that I couldn't undo? If I had been honest with him from the beginning, maybe things would have turned out differently. But now, there was no way to fix what I had broken. A few weeks after the divorce was finalized, I found myself walking past the spot in our old apartment where we used to sit and have dinner together. I stopped for a moment, looking at the empty chair where James used to sit. It felt like a lifetime ago. I thought about reaching out, trying to make amends, but I knew deep down that it wouldn't change anything. James had moved on, and I had to do the same. There was no going back to what we had. I had burned that bridge. But I also knew that I couldn't stay in this place forever. I had to move on too. It wasn't going to be easy. In fact, it was going to be one of the hardest things I had ever done. But I couldn't keep living in the past. I had to find a way to forgive myself and learn from the mistakes I had made. As I stood there, looking at the empty space, I whispered to myself, "I'm sorry, James. I'm so sorry." But even as the words left my lips, I knew they would never be enough to fix what I had done. The damage had been done, and all I could do now was try to be a better person going forward, even if it meant living with the consequences of my actions.